So how do we help our struggling writers, the ones that need intervention? There's a 5-part process to this, so let's get going. All right, this video is part 3 of my writing intervention series that I'm making, but a lot of the activities and strategies I'm going to talk to you about really can be used in the initial tier 1 overall whole class instruction. And then you can take some of these and use them in smaller intervention groups where they've already been exposed to some of these ideas and activities so they don't feel totally lost. And when they have to repeat them with you in a small group, it makes it really, really strong. So this is the third one. We're going to talk about paragraph writing. I've gone over reluctant writers and sentence writing in part 1 and 2. So if you haven't seen those, go back to that and watch these in order so you can see how they build on each other. Before we get into specific paragraph writing, I need to talk about something super important to me, and it is the pedagogy that I use to design my instructional activities, which really comes from a constructivist point of view. I absolutely love it when it comes to teaching. And I'll read this to you because, you need that. Constructivist pedagogy refers to a theory of instruction where students are asked to absorb and understand course concepts through rich exploration. Kind of difficult in writing, but I'm going to show you how to do that. Constructivist pedagogy supports experiential learning where students learn through doing. And then the most important point here is that instructors will encourage students to construct their own knowledge through experiences and activities versus being lectured. So I'm going to show you how I get away from the lecture, take notes, take a test kind of theory, and how I also don't simply rely on, let's do a KWL chart. It's not that. That's cool, but it's just not experiential. So we're going to not lean on that too heavily. And so this is how I use constructivist theory in my writing class. And I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of times that you could do this, where they are having experiences, they're working in groups or with a partner, or preferably in a trio. And if you've taken my training, you know why I absolutely love trios, number 3. And in the part where when they're going to do essays, which will be in the next video, I'll get into all the details about that. I often give them handout sample essays, and then I give them a rubric, and then I say, what would you grade this? And then, okay, you all give me your reasoning. And then you can move on to the second part, which is based on your answers as a trio. What rules do you think all writers should remember when they are doing an essay? And they start making a list of rules of things to include and not include. I would put them all up on the board, even the wrong ones. Make a massive list of all the things that they think. And then I make it all kind of mysterious. Like, okay, now of this whole list, there are 5 on this board that are correct. Which ones are they? And then get into like, which one do you think is most important from those, and see if they can find the 5 rules. That way they have done all the thinking and you didn't have to sit there and read a rubric out loud to them. They constructed the rubric together as a group. Next, let's suppose you are working on a specific skill, like skill number 1 in my writer's workshop, which is voice. And you give them 2 examples in your trio. Here's one, here's another one. Which one's better? You could do this right after you do the first voice activity, and then have them as a group come up rules for writing with voice and see if they're matching what you talked about in that last activity that you did. Next, this is really important. This is how I do this. So oftentimes we have to give them definitions of things, particularly with figurative language. And we're really in a rush a lot of times, right? And I just ask that you try this to slow down on the ones that are most important to you, that you want to have that stick, right? So not every single definition you would do this with, but the ones you want them to know, I would suggest this. Talk about examples and non-examples, and don't tell them the definition yet. Let me show you what this looks like. Okay. I will do this where I will give them the word. Authors and how it's used. Authors will often use similes, and I'll explain that when they're doing their writing to make it better, they use similes, and we pronounce it correctly for a little while because a lot of these hyperbole, super fun to say. So we just practice saying similes, similes. Say it to yourself, say it to your partner, say it to your shoes, say it to your pencil. Okay, now we all say simile. And I'm giving you an example of a simile and a non-example. In your trio, can you figure out which is which? Go. And then have them have a quick discussion. Short, quick trio discussions are like my specialty. And I love it because I make it really quick. We're not going to dabble here. Just turn and talk. And they have to come up with which one is the example and not. And I want to elicit their thinking in this. Like, well, why would this one be an example of why would an author want to use that sentence and not the other one? Let me show you what I do when let's see if this is grouped up here. So what you can do is take, when you're in Google Slides, this is being weird right now. So this and this, you group it. But in Google Slides, you can make these movable, and then you would go and have it match up to the correct one there. And then talk about, okay, so now that they've matched it up, what do you think the definition of a simile is? And see if they can come up with the words all on their own and do the same thing that I talked about before. Write all their stuff up there and say, I would say 2 of you are correct. Which ones do you think it is? All right, let me go back up to this right here. Example, non-example, right? The next one after that, let's get bigger on the screen. Okay, example, non-example. I love this one of an alien just walked in. So anytime you're working on something and it starts to get a little bit woo-woo and way out there, and say, oh my gosh, an alien just walked in. And the alien wants to know, how do I write a simile? He's like trying to understand human culture. This is very confusing. And I always kind of try to have a little alien thing, like a picture on the screen or something. How would you describe how to write a simile? And just stop, turn at their table, or write down quietly in their notebook their own definitions. Writing their own, constructing their own definitions is how they actually remember it and hopefully later use it. The other option with this is a mystery box, which I love. So if you take whatever, any box, shoe box, anything, you could decorate it and then use it over and over throughout the whole year. And then when I did this with my 6th graders in Title I school, and they love this stuff. So you take the box out before, let's say you're going to read an article in Common Lit or whatever. And in this box, you've written down 5 or 6 vocabulary words that are connected to the story that they're about to read. And you tell them, I'm going to pull out some words that will appear in the article that we are about to read. And you take them out and maybe have another student write the word on the board. Okay, there's that word. Pull it out. And what they're doing is they're trying to think, what is the topic of this article going to be? And what will it be about? And so based on these 5 or 6 words, or 10, whatever you want to do, you could do phrases even, just anything that gives them a little snippet preview of what's about to happen in this article. They write down their guess, their hypothesis of what they think this article is going to be about that we're going to read. And then you don't tell them who's right yet. Maybe you have them submit them all before you read it. You could say there is one group who got it. So we're going to read the article now and see who got it. So that act as a child, trying to see who got something, or there's always this little bit of mystery in there. It changes their motivation, really. Okay, so let's talk about the last one that I'm blocking, number 7. That's what I'm talking about today. Have them manipulate strips of paper and labels to see if they can construct a paragraph or an essay. So now we've worked on all the sentence writing, and we're going to get into paragraph writing. And I'm going to show you a resource that I have to do just paragraph writing. Let me get back out of this and I will pull up that particular, there we go. Okay, it's called Deconstruct a Paragraph. And before we get into this, I do want to show you like an example of where you could take your students with this, because it's quite amazing what you can really, really accomplish. Let me hop over here. Hang on one second. I'm not editing a ton out of this. I'm just being a human. Okay, here we go. Let me make this one bigger. So you have at the beginning of the year, this was the for my sixth graders. On the left, this was the first like story stuff that we did, and I asked them to write a paragraph. And so this is the type of thing that I was getting. The theme is magical. I don't know what that means. And there's a fairy godmother. Well, you know, there are words here and there are capital letters and periods. So we have a place to start. Yay. This is sort of a medium, I would say, type of writer who, you know, it's kind of difficult to get them to writing like something super full. By the end of the year, the last quarter, we in social studies were writing about Julius Caesar. And so now they're writing, I personally think that Julius Caesar was a good ruler. He did everything he could do to ensure that Rome was a safe space for a lot of people, and he was an awesome warrior. So now we're just like a full, like all these things flow together. It's not random and it's punctuated rather correctly, except for Rome, but really, really, really big growth there for this particular student. I do want to show you a student who's kind of high level. This actually was, she's a fantastic writer, but this was the type of stuff I was getting at the beginning of the year. Empathy, selfish, and he had empathy for a bird. Okay. And then after we've gone through all the stuff that I'm going to teach you all toward the end of the year, this is what I was getting. All I asked was for 3 or more sentences. And for some reason, she decided to go ahead and write an essay for me. But that's how it became so natural to her that it fell out like this. It was quite amazing with the evidence and really explaining the evidence down there. So this is the kind of growth that you can see when you do these types of strategies. Okay, let me hop over to this paragraph one. So you could have them deconstruct a paragraph itself in groups of 3. And in doing this, you could basically give each group like a manila envelope like this. And in it, let me go back up to the front here because I want to show you kind of what's in the whole thing so you kind of see this, okay? Let's suppose, like, let's go to the example, non-example thing. You could do this. You could say, what is a paragraph? You could give an example and a non-example, see if they could determine which one was which. You could have them go ahead and guess the definition of a paragraph. I would not tell them what it is. Like this whole thing that I like to, you can print, put on your wall or whatever. I wouldn't show them this. I would not say a paragraph is and go through the whole thing before they do anything. Let them get into the activity. Let them experience sentences before they define this. I would not read this to them before they do the activity. This could come later and as a reference that could go on the wall or as we're checking their ideas. Again, another thing that goes on the wall. So we're going to figure out a paragraph today by using an activity where we deconstruct, take it apart, put it back together. But the twist is that there is one that's missing a concluding sentence. You don't even know what that is yet, do you? Well, you're about to try and figure it out. And then I show them this picture of like what it will sort of look like when you get to the end. You would need to decide the level of your kids if they could handle 3 different paragraphs all mixed together, or if you just need to do 2 or 1, wherever your kids are at. And then these directions up here about putting out the labels and connecting them. These are things you can cut out. And then here are the paragraphs. And these will be all out of order in their folder, right? So they have to read it and start to figure out which sentence matches with this one. And then they can start to see the concept of an overall statement having supporting details and see if they can come up with words for that on their own of what that means. One of them is missing this part right here. And then when they get through all this, here's the answer key. They then move on to trying to do this all by themselves. And I would start with giving them a topic sentence and having them find some details. One thing you could do is put up some information about planets and space and solar system, whatever you're studying in another topic, you know, history, whatever, be kind of nice to be cross-curricular. Put them up around the room and have them do a gallery walk and find 3 details. And what you could do is they read it on the wall or whatever, right? And then when they're writing in their detail, tell them that they need to get with their clipboard, they need to turn around like that. So they have to turn away from it when they're writing their detail. This helps them understand how they put things in their own words, and that we're too tempted when something's right in front of our face to just write exactly what it says. Read it, think about it, turn around, and see if you can summarize it yourself in your own words. So then there's many of these in here that they could practice with. Stuff about homework, playing outdoors, playing sports is beneficial. And then you could pop in your own topic sentence, or you could do it in any order. Maybe you just give a detail and they have to figure out the topic sentence. So do it in all these different directions. And then again, you give the pets and have them come up with a topic sentence about it, and so on. The cool thing is that you could, let's suppose you did one on pets. You could tell them, I'm going to pick 3 of you and we're going to do the deconstruct activity with your paragraph. So 3 of them will write their topic sentence details concluding, find some really good ones, cut them up, put them in here, cut them up, and then have the class do it, and so on. And you can keep this activity going and going and going until they are super comfortable with all of these words and all the concepts and parts of this. So that is how I start getting them to use that constructivist model with writing, which is manipulating all the parts of sentences together. And then I have been going on for a while now, so let me hop back over here. Let's go to this last one here. I am going to talk number 4. So let's do that next. Scaffolded essay writing. I will give you, I'll explain how I use the constructivist pedagogy for essay writing, and then how do you then really help the kids who they just can't. I'll go into detail on that one. So make sure you come back and check that out. And if you'd like more information about the training that I have a 10 video training on exactly how I revamped my writing program. I left the school for a while and was an author and traveled around. And I ended up, based on like what I learned from my editors, I changed my writing like completely. And it has made the hugest difference, such an impact. So it's a 10 video training. You can get the first module of it for free, and it comes with the ebook that I wrote. So it's all written out exactly what I did. So look below for the links to that. Okay, thanks for watching my whole entire screen here. I will see you in the next one.